We're going to talk about graphing quadratics. And when it comes to graphing quadratics, things get pretty interesting. But we're going to start with the very, very basic understanding of talking about our four things that are all the same. Okay, I talked about this in the last video, but here we go again. Let's start with this second bullet point. Solutions are also referred to as blank, blank, or blank. So what are the other three? Solutions are the same thing as zeros. Solutions are the same thing as roots. That was the one that we used in the last video. And solutions are the same thing as x-intercepts. Now, like I said in the last video as well, these all have different meanings depending on how you're talking about the graphs. Now, if we're talking about graphs, we're talking about x-intercepts, okay? And that is actually really interesting here because the solutions to a quadratic equations are the same thing as the x-intercepts, which means your solutions are the points at which you cross the x-axis. So here's what that means. If I, have a graph that looks like this, and you guys will start to learn that quadratics are always U-shaped, this has two answers, and the two answers are right here. 0 and whatever that would be, 5 or, Exactly. It depends on the scale of the graph. You're 100% right. But you can see how it has two solutions, right? Now, if our U-shaped graph looks like this, this is when you only have one solution. Now, this is weird because we're supposed to have two answers. When do we only have one answer? That would be like when you have the same answer listed twice. And we saw that a little bit in the last thing, and we'll see that a little bit again today, right? And then how can you draw a U shape that has no real solutions? Right, you just draw a U like this. Now, we'll talk about this on Wednesday, but this is coming up, and this is going to be pretty interesting. So let's look at number one. We need to solve this, and for the most part, what we're going to do is we're going to treat this f of x as like a 0, okay? We're going to swap it out with a 0. We're going to be able to solve this using factoring, -3 minus plus 1 and 3. How do we make a 2? -1 plus 3. So we've done our factoring. We're able to do the shortcut, and we get x minus 1, x plus 3. Those are our factors. We want to take those and we want to turn them into solutions. So we want to take x minus 1 equals 0, add the 1 to the other side, x equals 1. Take this, x plus 3 equals 0. Subtract the 3 to the other side. X equals -3. And that means that if these are my solutions, these are also my x-intercepts. That means my u will cross at 1 and will cross at -3. That means my u is going to cross right here at 1, and my u is also going to cross right here at -3. That those are my two x-intercepts. Now, this is a really, really big thing. Okay, I'm telling you right now, when it comes to Algebra 2, I literally think that this is maybe the most important thing that you will learn all year. As weird as that seems, as much as that seems like a tiny little thing, when you in Algebra 2 understand how the graph and the actual equation relate together, how you can look at the graph and understand the equation, or look at the equation and understand the graph, that is like a super, super big skill when it comes to Algebra 2. Now, this is all we're going to do for this today. In the future, we'd learn how to graph this more precisely, but for now, That's all we know how to do, so we're going to stop right there. Let's do number 2, and this one is pretty important. It's the very last one we're going to do together. We're going to start it out like this. I see a minus x squared. You know that I pretty much hate negative x squareds, so I'm moving everything to the other side. Plus x squared gives me x squared. Plus 10x gives me plus 10x. Plus 25 gives me plus 25. And all of this has been moved over to the left. And so now my 0 is on the right. Now I can do my factoring, and I'm going to get positive 25. We literally did this question in the other video. It's going to be 5 and 5, x plus 5, x plus 5. And so our two answers are going to be x minus 5. So this is when we have that weird circumstance where we have two answers, but this double answer, is actually one answer. And so we're going to have negative 5. That's our first answer. And then negative 5 is our second answer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But of course, they're right on top of each other. And so your graph should really just look like this. All right, that is the first thing we're going to talk about, how quadratics relate to x-intercepts. That's the whole thing. Basically, your answers are your x-intercepts. That's it.